Are home builders at fault for our low housing inventory? The truth is, they're not the culprit here at all. Now, I get it. There are plenty of reasons to raise an eyebrow at home builders, especially with some of the odd moves they made during the COVID crisis. But when it comes to the scarcity of available homes, they are not the ones we should be looking at. So, what's really causing this low inventory headache facing the housing market today? Well, let me break it down for you, and you'll be surprised at what I have found out after spending hours digging into this issue. And we're going to get to it right now. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. My name is Hasna Pierce, and I get calls and emails and messages every single day from people just like you looking to relocate to North Georgia. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give me a call or send me a message. I would love to make your move to Georgia smooth and easy. Now, let's talk about this, about home builders being blamed for our problem in the housing market, especially with a low inventory. The villain in the research that I have done, at least one of them, is none other than the good old government bureaucracy, that infamous red tape. You can call it what you want, but it is a formidable obstacle. When a home builder decides to embark, for example, on a new development, they are in for a long ride. The first house in the project is like the culmination of years of planning and often on their own hard-earned money. It involves countless rounds of discussions, debates, and votes among municipal boards. And when new folks get elected, well, get ready for another round of introductions and handshakes and kissing babies by these builders. It's like a never-ending bureaucratic maze. Now, let me be clear though, I am all for government oversight when it's necessary, but there are times when it feels like a never-ending, frustrating ordeal. I understand that many folks see home builders as making buckets of money who don't need much sympathy. But here's the scoop. Before they can even put a shovel in the ground, they have to put down a substantial chunk of change. If we could ease up on the regulatory scrutiny, especially in the early development stages, we might be able to tackle our supply problem more effectively. So here's a little tidbit I just discovered. The government currently is apparently exploring the possibility of rezoning rather than converting areas into commercial zones. This means they might turn these spaces into single-family homes or multi-family buildings with potential government funding in the mix. The catch is this: the process is moving at a pace that makes a snail look like a speed demon. I don't mean to be trite about this, but really, this process includes the painstakingly slow approval process for zoning and planning. Consider this. The National Associations of Home Builders suggest that we're only about 1.5 million homes short of meeting the pent-up demand for homes people are eager to purchase. On the flip side, the National Association of Realtors paints a more concerning picture, indicating that we might be short by as much as 3 to 4 million homes based on the demand. The discrepancy is just one piece of the puzzle, showing that the housing supply crunch can't be pinned on home builders alone. So, as I just said, it's not just about blaming home builders. It's about understanding the complex web of regulations and red tape that they have to navigate before they could even begin the development process. And if we want to see more homes on the market, perhaps it's time for a bit of streamlining in the bureaucracy. Now, let's take a closer look at this revealing chart. It tracks the number of homes built since the last housing crash. And the trend is crystal clear, right? We're simply not constructing enough homes to keep up with the demand. Next, let's talk about the supply chain issue. Here is where it gets interesting. Even though today's first-time home buyers are older and have more money in their pockets, they are still grappling with the challenge of finding an affordable home. And who is the culprit? Building materials. Building materials have decided to play hard to get, and the prices have skyrocketed compared to the pre-pandemic era. You see, when you're dealing with a home builder, especially the smaller ones, they had to weather the storm of material shortages during the pandemic. Remember the lumber price surge? Of course you do. It had a direct impact on home prices at that time, and it wasn't a lovable situation by any means. In the world of real estate, whether it's the best of times or the worst of times, there's always something you should be aware of. The fine print in those home builder addendums, right? When you talk about rising building material costs and builders having to make it work, you've really got to watch the fine print in the addendums. These documents are like the secret language of the construction world, and they often protect the interests of the home builder rather than yours. Now, most of the time, you and the home builder are on the same page, right? You want a house and they want to sell it. But then, enter the pandemic and all bets are off. Remember the days when everyone was twiddling their thumbs, waiting for lumber and drywall to magically appear? Well, it turns out those delays had a financial impact on the builders too. It's like the game of Jenga, remember? One piece, and in this case the supply chain, starts wobbling, and the entire tower, the home construction, can come crashing down. Fortunately, things have improved on the supply chain front, and we're not grappling with those same issues today. But, and it's a big but, this doesn't mean the problem can't rear its ugly head again in the future. So, the cautious home builders are holding back a bit. They're not rushing into building an excess of homes in case the housing market takes a nosedive. And honestly, who can blame them? Construction materials are like a roller coaster. One day they're up, the next day they're down. Concrete, steel, and especially lumber have a mind of their own when it comes to pricing. You see, the cost of your home is directly tied to the price of these materials. Big builders have an advantage here. They buy in bulk, so they're somewhat shielded from these wild price swings. However, when you are dealing with smaller builders, they have to purchase materials right when they're ready to build your home. So, if the market is in one of its upswing, the home cost reflects that. Another reason for the low inventory of housing is the shortage of skilled labor. The shortage of skilled labor in the construction industry is another growing concern. All these houses that are currently in progress will soon become available, but building them is taking longer than it used to, primarily due to the shortage of skilled labor. It is not just an issue in Georgia, it is a nationwide challenge. Some say it's because these jobs don't offer the income that they desire, leading to a lack of pride in these professions. However, I find it hard to accept that notion. These dedicated workers, like the ones toiling past 6 o'clock at night, are putting in tremendous efforts, especially in the scorching Georgia heat this summer. These builders are working diligently, and it is a testament to their commitment to their craft. Now, the issue runs much deeper than that, and it's not just a problem in the United States, it's a global challenge. There's a shortage of individuals interested in careers like plumbing, electrical work, and drafting house plans. In my opinion, The root cause can be traced back to the removal of vocational education from high schools. It is a decision made by the government, and it is unfortunate because it is all interconnected. If we don't educate the younger generation about these secure, always in demand jobs, the problem will persist down the road. I'm a staunch supporter of reintroducing vocational education in high schools, especially in a world where the fear of AI taking over jobs is prevalent. You can't replace the value of skilled hands, and it's vital to encourage young people to pursue careers in these trades. Now let's talk about something called builder sentiment. It's like reading the mood of a builder. Before the pandemic, they were pretty chipper about the housing market. But as we know, the world changed, and so did their outlook. It's like that feeling when you're about to go on a roller coaster, and by the time you get right up to it, you're not quite sure if it's a good idea anymore. Home builders had actually begun to slow down their construction efforts because of the pandemic. In fact, some of them had even decided to put a halt to building new houses. I remember that well, driven by a sense of impending doom in the housing market. Little did they know that this decision would come back to haunt them. The pandemic brought a twist in the form of record low interest rates. Remember that? 2.5%, 3%, outrageous. It ignited an explosive surge in housing demand. Suddenly, they found themselves in a mad scramble to catch up with the pent-up demand that has been simmering. But playing catch-up wasn't as smooth as they had hoped. A shortage of available labor for construction compounded their challenges. So, not only were home builders feeling less than enthusiastic about the housing market, despite the obvious demand, but they are also faced with the reality of higher wage demands from their workers, therefore escalating the cost of building materials. Constructing a house is now a much costlier endeavor than it used to be. Builder sentiment took a hit, and it started to resemble a roller coaster ride again. To add to that mix, they cited the sky-high interest rates as a reason for scaling back their construction efforts. In their view, if a potential buyer were hesitating due to the high interest rates, why should they build more houses? After all, their goal each year is to hit a certain number, right? And they can't afford to take a loss on the homes they have. Even the bigger builders aren't immune to this cautious sentiment. We can't really blame them for being hesitant to embark on a major housing project when they risk losing money. So, unless we start offering some solutions to encourage builders, they are likely to remain reluctant to take the leap into new developments. It's a complex web of factors that makes the world of home building a challenging one. And we can understand the builder's reservation in this uncertain landscape. Here's one of those moments where I really hesitate to even utter these words because it tends to make everyone cringe. But let's face it, the government needs to step in and provide some form of incentives for builders, whether it's through tax credits, rezoning, or simplifying the bureaucratic red tape. Builders need that extra nudge to get them building more houses. To sweeten the deal, builders should be focused on homes below the median price range. However, this can only work if we also streamline the permitting process, which, as you can imagine, can be a costly hurdle for builders, even with the proposed incentives. Now, let's be clear. These aren't existing laws or established programs. It's just something that I would like to see. These are ideas that I'm throwing out there that could possibly help. Perhaps we can extend these incentives to local governments in some areas. I don't like delving into politics. It's crazy enough as it is in these days. But regardless of who is in office, Congress tends to have its own agenda, and we know that, right? And it rarely aligns with the urgency of addressing the housing supply crisis. So here's the exciting part for potential home buyers. If you are in the market for a new home, builders are well aware that many buyers have been holding off, waiting for interest rates to drop. In response, they are ramping up the incentives, especially as we approach the end of this year. So, I encourage you to explore new home construction. Even though it might be pricier in your area compared to existing homes, builders are offering enticing perks to level the playing field. Think closing cost assistance, interest rates reductions, and sometimes even added bonuses like upgrade packages or better appliances. It's a great opportunity, and it might surprise you in the terms of affordability. So, don't immediately dismiss the idea of considering new construction just because you believe it might be out of your budget. You might be surprised to find that with all the enticing incentives that they are offering, you can actually afford it. I am not here to pressure you to buy new homes, really. I am simply pointing out that if you are in the hunt for a great deal, this is the perfect time to explore what new home construction have to offer. It's worth noting, builders don't always shout about those incentives from the rooftops. This is where having a well-connected real estate agent, that's me, becomes invaluable because they may have the inside scoop on these offers. For example, I recently placed a family into a brand new home after negotiating, listen to this, $75,000 in total discounts of the price of their home. So, do your due diligence and explore what's available, especially in the current environment of higher interest rates. Speaking of interest rates, can you believe they've reached a staggering 8%? You might have heard some predictions about a massive housing crash. But unless there's a significant economic downturn causing people to struggle with mortgage payments, you won't see any excess supply of homes. Many homeowners today are sticking with their homes, often due to low interest rates they secured during the pandemic so that they're not in a hurry to sell. Having said that though, when you experience, or as homeowners experience death, divorce, debt, and things that crimp their budget, that would drive them to putting their home on the market. But by and large, most people are hanging on to their homes. Why sell when they have the interest rates that their home payments are being paid right now? And if they do sell, they're facing an 8% interest rate to buy their next home. Here's another thing that we need to keep in mind. There's a growing number of people who no longer want to rent because of continually rising rents. Landlords are well aware of the supply shortage, and they're taking advantage of it by increasing rents. It's not the fault of home builders or landlords, the government, or the cost of materials. In the end, it's not about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about finding practical solutions and creating a healthier housing market for all. So, what's the solution? It is a complex problem and requires some really thought out solutions. But we can take small steps towards solving the problem, and we can begin, like I said, by incentivizing builders to increase housing supply. Now that you've seen the numbers and understand the complexities, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Do you still believe it's the builders' fault that there's a shortage of affordable homes in the US? Share your comments in the section below. And if you would like to explore more about home building in Georgia, shoot me a text, send me an email, or give me a call. All of my information is in the description below. My name is Hasna Pierce, your local boots on the ground real estate expert here in North Georgia. And until I see you in the next video, I hope you have a great day.